Hello and welcome to this special edition COVID-19 Rogers Television program. My name is Carol Merton, and before I welcome our guests today to the program, for those of you who watch regularly, you know that I like to say a few words of thank you just at the beginning of the program. I want to let you know about an exciting new adventure that Rogers Sports and Media is doing. It's been basically started this week, and really what it is, it's to recognize all of our frontline healthcare providers and workers and to say thank you and tell them how much we appreciate them. Rogers has started basically a fundraising campaign called Hearts and Smiles. And for those of you who can see, I'm wearing one of the t-shirts actually. I'd stand up, but I'm not sure it would help. I'm short, you may not get the whole picture, but it's really a heart that says thank you for all of our frontline workers for what you're doing. The proceeds from the sales of the t-shirts and masks are going to the Frontline Fund, which through hospital foundations provides supplies and support for healthcare professionals who put themselves ahead of others to ensure our safety and well-being. So you can purchase a t-shirt and mask combo, or even a 10-pack of masks online by going to www.heartsandsmiles.ca. Our frontline warriors continue to have our backs throughout COVID-19, and it's time for us to have theirs. So what is the Frontline Fund? Well, it is created by many hospital foundations themselves. It is a charity that supports more than 150 hospital foundations across Canada, and all of them are battling COVID-19. This fund will focus on three areas: supplies for healthcare workers, which will include the absolutely critical personal protective equipment; support for healthcare workers, which includes providing hotel rooms near hospitals when they're working the long hours and they just need to be staying close to the hospital; and also mental health resources for those who are certainly feeling the stress and anxiety of being on the front line; research as well for clinical trials for drugs, as well as vaccine development. In addition, up to 10% of all the funds raised will be allocated to the Canadian territories and the Aboriginal communities. So you can support this initiative and the Frontline Fund by going to the website, and again, it's www.heartsandsmiles.ca. And Rogers Sports and Media again says thank you to our frontline heroes and our frontline warriors. And on that note, I also want to say thank you to my guest today who's joining us. Pastor Chris Krejlgaard is here to talk about the COVID-19 impact on his church, which is the Lutheran Church of Our Saviour here in Owen Sound, but also faith communities further afield, because just like all of us here at home, out in retail, business world, faith communities have also had an impact because of the restrictions as a result of COVID-19. Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well, we're in a different world than we were a few months ago, that's for sure. Can you tell me when regular worship, meaning people attending in groups, unmasked, in church services, singing, having communion, when did that stop?
It stopped March 16th, I believe, was the official date, because March 17th was when our YouTube channel started. So that's usually what my marker is for that.
Interesting. Your YouTube channel, now you really do have to fill me in. So you were going to YouTube anyway.
Well, the thing is, once we were told we're shuttered, the services are suspended for however long, we went online. So we created a YouTube channel and it went live on the 17th of March, which would have meant that the 16th is when we found out.
Yeah.
As of yesterday, I think we've posted something like 53 or 54 videos of devotionals, worship services, make goods because the pastor messed up on something. it's just going to keep going. I mean, we don't know when we're back. I mean, you asked the big question, and there is no answer. We don't know. When we started, we thought we'll be back by Easter. And then Easter came and went, that we thought we'd be back by Pentecost, which is May 31st. And that's not going to happen. No. So I think a lot of the pastors and a lot of the bishops just said, we're going to go day by day and see what happens.
Tell me a little bit about yourself first, Pastor Chris, because, we jumped into COVID, which of course that's the topic, but you've been in Owen Sound for a while, but you also have a background that you told me before the program fits absolutely perfectly within this situation. Fill me in.
Well, I've been in Owen Sound for almost 5 years now. I came in as the intern, and then they kept me as the maternity leave replacement. And then the congregation goes, well, we broke him in, we'll keep him. So I've been the official full-time pastor for almost 3 years now. But before I entered answered the call to ministry in 2012, I had spent over 30 years as a journalist. So part of it was near the end of my tenure was dealing with social media. And on top of that, I taught at Cambridge College in Sudbury, social media courses, journalism production. So, going from March 16th to March 17th wasn't that big of a leap for me. But little by little, the new social media platforms, I'm getting more used to and accustomed to working with. So, because it's not just Facebook anymore, it's YouTube, and then it's Instagram, and who knows where else it goes.
So you mentioned that you started a YouTube channel. How does that fit with, here in Owen Sound, we have a mixture of ages, but a lot of seniors, and some are very technical and technological savvy, and others less so. How are you finding that approach of a YouTube channel or message working? Initially it was very slow to get, but people, once word gets out, and part of what we do now is, I call it a ministry of connection, because we have to stay connected somehow, and we have to keep people connected to their congregation and the church. So lots of phone calls, lots of emails. People are becoming more attuned to how to get onto Facebook and how to get, a lot of our congregation didn't have email until this started. Then suddenly they found out they need it. But little by little, the audience grows as we go along. I think we're just under 2,000 views for everything we've done since we started, which is a good number. And of that, 500 or so are unique viewers, which means that's 500 or so people way beyond our congregation that are plugging in. And I've told members of the congregation we are now a global congregation, because 60% of our YouTube viewers are Canadian. That means 40% are offshore. So we're toying with an idea of doing a hymn sing in June via Zoom, and we could have people from Africa joining in to sing a couple hymns with us. Were you surprised at the fact that you got 500 that were not regular attenders? Yes and no. I mean, I'm surprised at how far the reach went, but but I mean, it speaks to the fact that people are still looking for some sort of spiritual connection. We're not the only church, and we're not the only community where churches are closed. So people are looking for something, and if what we present touches them, God bless them. I've gotten comments about we're doing a daily devotional during the weekdays, which is something we used to just post onto Facebook a little write-up. Now I deliver a 3-minute devotional, and some of the comments I get are from people I've never heard of. I have either from the States or from Europe, and
it's that's the part that really surprises me.
Yes. So you do a daily devotional, which you put on, you post.
Yeah, we post it to YouTube and we post it to Instagram, and we put it to our church's Facebook page. So we cross platform all over the place.
So that's the key message is really don't stick with one thing. You really need a variety to be able to reach a variety of people.
Oh yeah, and I mean the other thing is what I've seen is that the clergy are tapping into creative ways of sharing the message and keeping people connected to their faith communities. The pastor in Williamsford, every Sunday, someone from the church goes and rings the bell at the Lutheran Church in Williamsford, just to remind people that the church is alive. And the pastor, a dear friend of mine, Pastor Dargo, went last Sunday, sees this line of traffic going by the church as the bell's ringing, and she stopped each car and offered a blessing to each car.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
So I think it was in one of the local papers. You see this picture of a line of cars just waiting for the people waiting to be blessed. So it speaks to creativity. It speaks to outside the box thinking, and the willingness to adapt to the conditions. And last night, our council here had a meeting, and we were talking about the future of the church and what the new normal is, because everyone realizes that the new normal, when we come out of the pandemic, is not going to be the old normal that we went in with.
Did you find it hard? I mean, there's a certain pattern in a church week, never mind church seasons. Did you find it hard to make the adjustment? I mean, every Sunday you're leading worship, right? How did you cope?
It took me a good 2 or 3 weeks to get used to it, because what would happen on a normal week for us before the pandemic is I would write the liturgy, I would probably massage it a bit during the week, and then Sunday morning I would deliver it. Now, because we pre-record it, because I'm a production team of one, which means I can't live stream unless I'm going to stand right in the same spot the entire time. So I would record, say, the prayers. I would record a Thanksgiving for baptism, and then I would do different parts on different days depending on what I have on the go. And then I would spend a couple hours putting it all together on my computer, and then creating the file. And it takes 3 hours to upload because it's a massive file. So, this week the national bishop for the church offered the sermon. I suddenly have no sermon to write this week, which, strangely enough, it throws me off. Because I'm used to, I'm sitting there going, it's Thursday. I should be on page 3 of the sermon by now. And I'm just sitting there going, I have phone calls to make.
Yes. Totally different rhythm, for sure. There's been some conversations and some discussion. And you did mention we're going to be in a different world, we think. Do you think that singing, you mentioned you were going to, consider a Zoom hymn sing or whatever, but singing in church, there's been some conversation about whether that will be allowed in the future. What are your thoughts?
Part of me says, it's a done deal that there's not going to be singing for a period of time after we're back into the buildings. The health, everything I read about the health concerns and the spreading of droplets from song, it tells me that no, it's too big of a risk, which means we have to change, because music's such a large part of the Lutheran liturgy. Yeah. We're going to be stripping it down to the bare bones without any music at all. So we're going to be actually going back to the early church, and that's going to be an interesting thing, because I know people in the congregation, they come to sing, and they're not going to be able to. The one thing since the pandemic began is we have what's called the Lutheran Clergy Cluster, which is all the Lutheran members of the clergy in the Grey Bruce area, and we meet more regularly now by Zoom because of this. And the bishop we only meet with the bishop personally once a year. Now it's been every month because we sit down and talk about this. And that was one of the things he brought up on our last meeting was it could be 12 to 18 months after we get back where we're not allowed to sing.
Yeah.
Even with, and there's other requirements that may be in play. We may have to wear masks when we come back. We may have to limit the number of people attending. If you come, you'll have to log in so we can track it in case something happens. It's going to be an interesting learning experience for a lot of people who are used to just coming, singing, and going home.
Yes. Are you concerned that it will change the dynamic of the feeling when people come to worship?
That's going to be certainly part of it. There, people are going to be used to coming in, and our liturgy has certain touchstones we hit at certain points in the service, and some of those touchstones will not be there. And it's going to be up to the ministers, the pastors, myself, to come up with something that's going to be familiar enough, but doesn't carry a health risk. So.
Many times people look to the faith community to be the touchstone and to be the solid link that helps carry them through difficult and challenging times, which certainly places responsibility on you in your role as pastor to be able to develop those touchstones in a different way. I'm also wondering, people will have to wear masks. How will the process and the celebration of communion happen?
Well,
or will it?
Well, that's part of the conversation now. Is some churches do what's called virtual communion, where they live stream their services, and people are told ahead of time have a bread and a cup of wine or juice in front of your computer. And the priest or the minister offers the words of institution, blesses the elements through the computer, because it's still the word is it's still a community. It's still a digital community. I'm bouncing both ways on this one. I haven't decided. One of the things we're considering is once some of the restrictions on the size of the assemblies happen, we might do something outside where we have everything on. We have the wine and the bread on the table. We have prepackaged grape juice and wafers, sealed, so no one touches them but the person that takes them. They'll be on the table. We do a brief, great Thanksgiving. I offer the blessings, the words of institution, and then people would socially distance, walk up, grab the cup, walk away, just like they do in Walmart. There'll be marks on the sidewalk. That's something we're talking over right now.
Yeah. The other area is around funerals, where with the restriction of number of people who can attend and also, the social distancing, what's happening with the faith communities around funerals? And are all pastors, ministers, priests still doing funerals? Do you know?
Our congregation has been blessed that haven't had to deal with it yet.
Not good.
But I know some of the pastors in the cluster have, and the funeral directors are top notch, and they set the guidelines. You're only allowed 10 people. And what some of them do is they'll do the service, and then there'll be a celebration of life arranged for later, where a larger group can come in. But it's the problem is right now there are some faith communities where it's important to be with the person as they pass, to offer last rites or blessings or commendations. And they're not allowed, in some contexts, they're not allowed to get in to do that. So there is a bit of a faith problem for the family, because that's important to them to have the person commended, their spirit commended. Yes. And So that's something that the chaplains are dealing with. The faith, some of the pastors that have people in hospital are dealing with. I have members who are in hospice that I can't get to, and that makes ministering to the family hard.
Do you anticipate that the grief process will be altered because of some of these events are not proceeding as usual? I mean, we're in a different world. Do you anticipate people will have challenges with the grieving, or that your time will be needed more afterwards?
I would think that it depends on the family, the dynamics in play, but there are going to be instances where the grief, because the service itself is a key part of their grief process, and it's not there, that could be a problem. So that means that there's more counseling afterwards. And right now we're restricted in terms of like at-home visits, so we can't even do that kind of counseling until the restrictions are lifted.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
And it's not we can call them on the phone, we can talk to them, but it's not the same. And you're not there with them. Your presence is not fully there.
So what are you hearing back from people who may be watching your YouTube, or are they liking it? Are they feeling a loss? Are they missing a segment? What are you hearing back from those who are receiving the message?
In terms of the worship itself, there's people that miss parts of it because there's elements that just don't make sense to do, or because it's the internet. You don't want the service to be overly long. The attention spans on the internet are very short. So YouTube has this thing where you can watch, and you can open it up and you can watch how long people watch the thing, and at what point do they check out. And 15 minutes in, right before the sermon, some people check out. Right after the sermon, a lot of people check out. So the other problem is, how do you handle music? People, I try to get one hymn in just so people feel like, they feel that it's a service, even though it's online. And, it's never the same. Someone told me that, they liked the music, but they couldn't sing with it because it was off time. And some people just want it perfect. And this is an imperfect world, and this is definitely an imperfect time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. After we're through this, when we're on the other side, will you continue with your online ministry as well, or will you do a mixed model? Have you?
It's been part of the discussion. In fact, like my congregational council and I were talking about that last night. Like, when we come out, what do we keep and what do we toss? In terms of, like, the big debate was, do I keep pre-recording worship and offering it online, even though I'm doing the in-person stuff? And I said, there's not enough hours in the day for that, because, right now I can do it because I have the time, because I can't do in-person visits, which, partly because it's, the traveling, the visits itself, and my recovery time, because in-person visits aren't like social calls. They are actually, quite draining to the pastors.
Yeah.
So my guess is, and we'll probably keep like the weekday devotionals. We may keep the, maybe video sermons. I haven't decided, because the other problem is we're not set up in the sanctuary to do things like live streaming. So we'd have to do an investment. And coming out of a pandemic is not the time you want to invest a lot of money, because, the offerings are down because people aren't here. And a lot of churches are struggling right now because financially a lot of their finances are covered by in-person offerings. And if there's no in-person, there's no offerings a lot of the time, or it's diminished.
Yeah. How can people continue with their offerings in this situation? What are the strategies in place? I mean, you can go online and do a variety of things these days, but for churches,
it depends on what they're comfortable with. I mean, some churches do PayPal. so that they can take credit cards and, they get the money immediately. And PayPal, from what it takes a minimal administrative fee, which is nice for them. In our case, we take e-transfers. We've installed a secure mailbox by the entrance to our sanctuary, so people can swing in and drop in their envelopes if they want. In our website, we take it's called Canada Helps, which is another online service where basically people click, they send the money through them digitally, and they send it on to us. Yeah. So there are strategies in place for people, for churches to still collect their offerings and cover some finances. And a lot of churches have what was called PAR, which was an automatic monthly withdrawal that people arranged for. So that stayed in place when the pandemic kicked in. So in our case, it really helped out, and this PAR system really kept us financially secure.
What would you say to people who are really missing that community connection? We're social animals in many ways, and what do you say to people when they talk to you about being lonely?
Well, I mean, the people I talk to that express that also understand the situation, so that the phone call means a lot. When I've talked to one member of the congregation, and 2 days later, he ran into someone else from the congregation, and he's just said, it meant so much to have the pastor call. So yes. That's the guts of my ministry right now. Besides the production of worship and devotions, is calling people, making sure they know that they're not forgotten. Yeah. And what we did just about 2 weeks ago is we compiled a children's activity book, because it dawned on me that we remembered the seniors and people my age and up, and we forgot about the kids. So we sent these activity books for the kids, and the parents respond and say, "Thank God you did that. They ran out of things to do."
It was a gift for the parents as well. I can't believe our time is up already. I want to thank you so much for appearing on the program. It sounds like the churches are being creative and reaching out to the community to continue to support people. Thank you, Pastor Chris, and thank you to our viewing audience for joining us today to learn more about services and resources available to you. Stay safe, stay connected, and take care of each other. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media. This is Rogers TV, Grey County.
Hi, I'm Sharon Skelly, host of Community Close-Up. Please watch us every week here on Rogers TV.